Okay.
Hey, everybody. Oh my gosh, guess what? It is 10:02 p.m. East Coast time, and we are pre-recording the show because
Right.
I I need a therapist because I just don't know how to handle it. I was looking, Ronnie, I went in the closet today and I looked at my Zeke jersey and I'm like,
Oh
OMG.
yeah.
What am I supposed to
Dang.
do now?
The end of an era.
Ronnie.
Can I let you in on a little secret?
What?
Dak's going next year too.
Ronnie, shut up. So, anyway, y'all, I'm sports family therapist, Dr. Lauren Pitts.
And I am former student athlete Ronnie Ransome. Welcome back to House Talk Pregame, episode 116, ladies and gentlemen. So, and this is a very special edition. This is a nightcap edition. So, when you hear this, we promise you we're not taking over Quiet Storm. We're not taking over After Hours. You know, not taking over BT Uncut. None of that. Look, we're here for, honestly, it's really my fault that we're here tonight as opposed to our normal
Mm-hmm,
time.
mm-hmm,
Fatherhood, sometimes has to come first, but hey, we're gonna get it done. Look, isn't this what sports is all about sometimes?
Gotta
Sometimes you
make
just
the
got to
adjustment.
audible in the middle of a game. Sometimes you
Indeed.
gotta throw away the game plan and be like, you know what? We just gotta go with what we got and see what
Indeed.
happens. So, but you know what? We got a wonderful topic. And actually, I'm actually looking forward to talking about this topic because there has been a lot of it going on. We kind of talked about some of it last week,
Mm-hmm.
but we're really going to talk more about it tonight. Athletic saboteurs. In other words, why do some athletes sabotage? You
Mm-hmm.
know, for what reason? And when we talk about sabotage, we'll get into more, what sabotaging is and things like that. But also for our athletes, what are some of the reasons athletes sometimes find themselves sabotaging sometimes their career, sometimes brand new contracts, sometimes their starting position, or sometimes a roster
Mm-hmm.
spot? Why do these things happen? Why do athletes find themselves doing these things? Even some of the most accomplished athletes find themselves in positions of sabotaging. So we're going to get into some of the most common reasons that athletes sometimes sabotage, and then
Mm-hmm.
what we can do about that. What are some things that we can help our athletes do when they find themselves in the position of, sometimes sacrificing their morals, or in other words, sacrificing their principles
Yeah, man.
to, accomplish something, athletically. So we're going to be getting into that in a few short minutes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Pitts, how was your week? How's your day going? How's
OMG,
it?
Ronnie, I feel like I've been drugged by a freight train. It's like I don't use an alarm clock to get up. My body wakes me up, but my body clearly has been confused all week because I have not been able. So let me just say this first. So usually daylight savings time, like many people, it'll throw me off for a minute, right? And it takes a minute to
Right.
adjust. But it has never hit me like this. Like
Really?
oh my God, Ronnie, I have not been able to
That's
sleep.
crazy. I've been
Let me
hearing
tell
that
you,
a lot this week.
I'm not prescribing no meds. Let me put this disclaimer out there. I do not prescribe meds and don't ever do not try this at home. I got the brilliant idea
Hmm.
that I was going to take the magnesium that my doctor has me on for the foot and leg cramps that I have. And I also took melatonin. So what had happened was,
You felt really good.
look, you ever seen that meme? You ever seen that meme with Kermit the Frog? That's how I woke up. That's how
Oh
I
man,
woke up. And so I've overslept twice.
this
I've
week.
overslept twice this week because I was all high up. Go,
Mm,
go to sleep. And I'm like, I don't indulge in substances and such and so forth and so on. But my brain was like, yo, you
I
feel
feel
good?
you. I feel
I'm
you.
like,
This week went by. The weather started off this week where it was in the 20s at nighttime
mm-hmm,
and maybe the 40s during the day. Now
mm-hmm.
today it was 70.
See, it's
So
48 here. And it
Right now
was
is
like 80 some degrees the other day, and we had two tornadoes to hit yesterday. It's like,
I
oh.
saw one of my teammates is actually lives in Dallas, and I think
Mhm.
yesterday, where the road where he lives at was flooded, and I was like,
Yeah,
great day,
flash
like y'all
floods.
been
We had
catching it,
flash
yeah,
floods. We had two tornadoes hit. Like it was, the weather here was insane yesterday, and now it's cold.
yeah.
Like cold, cold.
I don't like to speak about Mother Nature, in a
I think
negative
she's
way.
bipolar.
I'm glad you said it and not me,
I do. I
but
think she needs. I think
but
she's.
in my clinical opinion, um, yeah, she's definitely giving some very up and down mood
Ish
swings here and there.
vibes.
Yeah,
She's got
just a
some.
little bit.
She got some vibes going on.
It seems like she gets a little angry in certain places, just depends. Just
Right.
depends on the time of the year. She gets
Florida,
angry in certain places.
Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, California seems to be on her list this year.
Right, right. So,
Like,
Dr. Pitts, before
yes.
we get into this topic, there are a couple of things, that we, to update everybody on in the current sports world. So, and I don't think I've ever shared this with you, for real. So everybody knows how much I have a strong dislike for the Dallas Cowboys, more so the fans than the actual organization itself. But it's, we'll just group it all together.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is another team that is a very close second that, I absolutely despise with the umpteenth emphasis on
As a Steelers fan,
despise.
that wouldn't be the Ravens, would it?
No, this isn't NFL or
Oh,
NBA.
okay.
This is college.
What? That's
Yeah,
Bowie.
yeah.
You hate Bowie.
No, I have a strong dislike for Bowie, but this
Okay.
is even worse than Bowie.
How's that possible, Ronnie?
So, as much as I love the Trojans and everything, when I was a lot younger, I was a Hokie fan, of Virginia Tech.
Okay.
So by nature, UVA is a team that I've grown up to despise over and over again. And any chance I get to, relish in their anguish, I take full advantage of that. So I want to give a
There
special
goes
shout out
our
to
look. There goes our chance of getting anybody from UVA on the show.
Oh, we'll get him. I got a friend that played at UVA, so we'll get somebody
We'll
on
get
here
them
eventually. Yeah,
in.
look, nothing but a conversation can smooth everything over. That's all I'm saying. But
Awesome.
however,
Uh-huh.
but look, I'm being real. All right,
Okay.
they want the real. All right, I'm just being honest. All right, no hard feelings. No, they also didn't recruit me. But no hard feelings. However, yesterday I want to give a special shout out to the Furman University basketball team for upsetting UVA yesterday in the
Did
NCAA.
they?
So
Wow. You say,
shout out to Furman. Shout out to Furman. Man, look, when I always tell people this, you got to enjoy the little things, right?
did they beat them
Nothing
in
make
Charlottesville or they beat them at Furman?
no. It was one of the regional games. I don't know
Oh,
what
okay.
region they were
Okay.
in. Um, hey, look, hey, they could have beat them over here in Ettrick. I
You
was
know what else?
happy.
Mhm.
I was happy.
Say,
But on
yeah,
top of that,
please.
Dr. Pitts, March Madness has been absolutely mad. So far, not only has UVA lost in the tournament, the biggest upset yesterday was University of Arizona, the 2 seed, losing to Princeton, 59 to 55. And
Ooh.
just literally like 35 minutes ago, Farley Dickinson just upset number 1 seed Purdue in the first round, which
Nuh-uh.
they are the second 16 seed ever
To get it
to
done.
be the number 1 seed in the first round and
Hey,
win a
North
game
Jersey in
also.
the house.
Oh, they're from North Jersey?
Hey, Dickinson's in North Jersey. Yeah.
Word. Shout out to North Jersey. Shout out to North. I don't know why Purdue was the number 1 seed anyways. Now, I'll be honest with you also. I, you know, I really didn't do a good job of keeping up with the NCAA
Mm-hmm.
men's season this year.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even do a bracket this season just out of respect of not really paying attention to it. But as of literally 30 minutes ago, there are literally no perfect brackets remaining out of 20 million brackets
Wow.
completed. So March Madness is alive and well, Dr. Pitts.
On a
You know,
whole nother level, so it seems.
despite NIL,
Mm-hmm.
despite the one and done,
Yeah,
March
man.
Madness will always be mad.
Yeah, right, right, right.
And
Everybody hate.
this is why we love college sports so much.
Yes,
Because
indeed.
you don't
Mhm.
get this at any other level. Now, don't get me wrong. When you get to the playoffs in the NFL and the
Mhm.
NBA finals and some
Mhm.
of the, like, maybe the conference finals and stuff like that, you
Mhm.
get masterpiece moments, you get classic moments and things like that.
Mhm.
But it's just something about the aura and the vibe and the energy of
Yeah.
college sports,
Yeah.
college football and college basketball, and the other sports as well. When it comes down to the tournaments, there's nothing like it,
Yeah.
and for somebody who competed at the college level and had a chance to play and had a chance to play in the playoffs.
Mhm.
um, it's just a different energy. And I mean, it's just like, it's an honor. Like, when we made it to the playoffs, we were one of 24 teams left out of all the D2 football teams. And I
Wow.
mean, so you just take those moments and you really
Mhm.
appreciate it. And I mean, these
Mhm.
guys are capitalizing. So shout out to all these
Taking
teams.
advantage of the
Shout out to the
moment.
right. I mean, hey,
Mhm.
you only here one time. They thought you shouldn't be
Yeah.
here anyways. They did their best to get you out of here quick. And
Right.
hey,
Right.
you rose to the occasion. And some might say that somehow, some way, the number one seed probably sabotaged themselves somewhere along the game. When they go back
It
and watch
sounds
the
like that
film.
might be the case.
Right. I mean, hey, those moments happen. We're gonna get into
Yeah.
that in a few minutes and
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, March Madness is alive and well. And I
Mhm.
mean, we got some amazing games tomorrow, Dr. Chris. We got Alabama and Maryland. We
Mhm.
got Duke and Tennessee. We got Michigan State and Marquette. Shaka Smart, from
Mhm.
former VCU coach, he's at Marquette now. So,
Mhm.
that's gonna be, rooting for him. We got Houston and Auburn,
Mhm.
Penn State, Texas, Kansas, Arkansas.
Wow.
I can let you know one thing.
Yeah.
After we have our meeting tomorrow and everything, I can let
Mhm.
you know what I'm doing the rest of the day tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
look,
basketball.
Eli's gonna be looking at me like, Dad, you are crazy. Hey, look, son, you're not the only one that can yell in this house too. All right, so
Don't be giving the baby bad nerves yelling at the TV.
I'm gonna try not to stress him out.
Goodness great. Make him all jumpy and jittery. Look, he was scared of
Right.
basketball.
Also, real quick too, shout out to Coach Prime, as being the only spring game that's going to be televised on ESPN this spring. So
Wow.
yeah, and I believe actually this is the first year Colorado actually put a price on their spring game tickets. It was only $10, but they actually sold out, I think, within a matter of hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay. Interesting.
right.
For a
So
spring game. Huh.
and it's crazy. Guess what? They have their predicted wins for this season. They got them at 4.5 wins for the season. So, you know,
They were that bad.
well,
Okay.
I looked at their schedule. I'm not gonna lie to you. I gave them, in all fairness, I had them at 7-4, and I was being really nice. 7-4.
Can
Because
he
their
coach
schedule,
them up?
they still got USC, they still got UCLA, they got Oregon.
Oh, they got some
They
big
got
dogs.
some tough games, and they got some
Yeah.
winnable games too.
Yeah.
But but yeah, so shout out to him for getting a spring game on ESPN, um, doing some really good things at Colorado and everything. So yeah, did you have a mental health tip of the week or anything?
Nope. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Don't take
oh,
magnesium and melatonin to sleep. That's all.
I
Look at
feel.
that. It will cause you to sabotage.
Oh.
You, that is so funny looking. It looks like your
Oh.
brain.
Oh. Yo, what is my head doing? Hey, yo. Hey, my head is wilding right now. Oh
It looks like your brain is outside your head. Um,
Lord, this how you
yeah,
know it's late
because
at
doing
night.
that could sabotage your getting up on time and your life. It could just mess you all up. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't try it at
Right.
home.
Exactly. So, all right, y'all. So once again, we're talking about sabotaging and athlete
Mhm.
sabotaging. So what is sabotaging? So in a nutshell, sabotaging is a deliberate or intentional act of ruining one's experience, opportunity,
Mhm.
chances, momentum, progress, whatever the case may be. In other words, um, being in your own way. That's a
That's
nice
good.
way of putting it. Getting in your
Uh,
own way and, preventing yourself from, sometimes being exactly what it is that you hope you can be.
mm-hmm.
So, no, but why do we do that? You know,
I think some people do
why
it subconsciously, Ronnie. I don't think everybody. I don't think it. I don't think everybody realizes that they're doing it. At least that's my clinical perspective.
I wholeheartedly agree. But
Mm-hmm.
what do we know to be true? We know to be true that the subconscious comes through our behaviors, comes through
Absolutely.
our mannerisms, comes through our
Mm-hmm.
nonverbal language, comes through
Mm-hmm.
especially in terms of athletics, comes through
Mm-hmm.
how we finish drills, comes through how we
Mm-hmm.
communicate and participate in practice, how
Mm-hmm.
we show up in the moment when when
Mm-hmm.
chaos arrives, how we show up in
Mm-hmm.
those moments during the game or during practice and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So um a lot of times when we don't recognize it, just like we talked about, I'm pretty sure when Purdue looks at their game film tonight, they're gonna,
Mm-hmm.
say, well, yeah, we probably, shot ourselves in the foot a few times during the game,
Mm-hmm.
whether we realize it or not, we probably did that. But
Yeah.
you know, there are some other reasons that people do sabotage, and we're going to get into those in a few seconds. But
Mm-hmm.
before we get into that, let's give the people an example of some famous athletes who have found themselves to sabotage. For
Ooh.
example, Barry Bonds, for example.
Mm.
For all those who might not know who Barry Bonds is, especially for our younger generation,
Mm-hmm.
Barry Bonds is regarded as probably one of the best baseball players ever.
Mm-hmm.
And to make a long story short, the first half of his career, if he would have retired after he left from Pittsburgh, Hall of
Mm-hmm.
Famer, no
Yeah.
questions asked
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
However, he got traded to the San Francisco Giants, and he got himself involved in what they call the steroid era. And he had
Mm-hmm.
a noticeable difference in body mass, size, and I mean his power already beforehand was
Mm-hmm.
already, just elite. But when he was, allegedly, because he didn't get, they never found it, to be true, but allegedly he was using. So
Mm-hmm.
allegedly his power became even more just utterly ridiculous,
Mm-hmm.
culminating in him breaking the home run record, with 73. You also got somebody like Ray Rice,
Oh God.
who Right. Ray Rice, former NFL running back for the Baltimore Ravens, back in 2014, had a
Mm-hmm.
domestic violence incident with his fiance at the time, who later on became his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at first, when the report first came out, there was no video.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like one of the first situations where when video came out, the NFL kind of doubled back and was like, yeah, we messed this one up. And
Mm-hmm.
it really cost him his career,
Yeah.
even though they suspended him indefinitely. He fought and appealed and everything, and they got it
Mm-hmm.
overturned and whatnot, but no team never touched him again after that.
Right.
We've also seen somebody like Aaron Hernandez, who
Right.
some might say he sabotaged his career, with
Yeah.
everything that culminated with him. um and more recently, like we talked about last week, somebody like John Morant, who
Mm-hmm.
has been displaying, saboteur
Mm-hmm.
behavior,
Mm-hmm.
with flashing the gun in the club,
Mm-hmm.
which, he had the interview with Jalen Roses earlier this week and said it wasn't his, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And it's funny too, because somebody found his Instagram account from when he was like a younger kid and everything.
Mm-hmm. He wasn't waving a gun in the picture. Please tell me.
No, he was not waving a gun in the picture, but the captions themselves, if nobody knew any better, they would say, okay, he trying to be about that life and whatnot. But
Oh.
in the reality of the situation, he's about to cash in on a $200 million contract that goes into effect this year, and he's doing things like, you know, trying to fight a teenager on two separate occasions, having the gun incident, you know, um, you know,
Craziness.
and all these other things that he's been, having going on and whatnot. And we
Right.
and we see, now he went to the mental health facility for a few days down in Florida. Um, had his NBA suspension and everything. He's supposed to come back Monday. But yeah, that's another recent example of an athlete,
Mm-hmm.
really, almost throwing away their career.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so What are maybe some of the top reasons why athletes might, self-sabotage? Um, One example could be, a limited acceptance of abundance.
Ooh, that poverty mindset.
Right. And in other words, not believe. And the way I always tell people is this, when we talk about self-belief, self-confidence, and self-esteem, it
Mm-hmm.
really boils down to this. When we deal with intrusive thoughts, when we deal with,
Mm-hmm.
negative self-talk and negative, beliefs
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, what happens is we start to believe that we're not worthy enough, or we're not competent
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
to achieve the success that we have. And what
Yeah.
happens is, I give you a great example. Um, let's say, for example, you get an award at work or whatever, right? You
Mm-hmm.
get employee of the month or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now the spotlight's kind of on you in a sense, or at least in your head you feel like the spotlight's on you.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know oh, now I set the standard of what the employee should do, how they should work and things like that. So now
Mm-hmm.
my coworkers are looking at me. So
Yeah.
now I can't afford to slip up. I can't afford to make a mistake. I can't come into work late. I
Yeah.
can't stay on lunch too long, because if I do that, other employees are going to sit there and think they can do that and get employee of the quarter too.
Right.
We see the same thing with athletes. When athletes are named team captain,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that role of being team captain can cause a player to experience enormous amounts of anxiety, because
Yeah.
now you are thrusting into a role of leadership that, whether or not you embrace the role or not, now the lens is more on you. The focus is more on you in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates a bigger ability for an athlete to run into the situation of, am I worthy of this position? You know,
Mm-hmm.
can I handle this position? Can I be a leader of my team? Can I be a
Yeah.
leader of my position group and things like that? Can I
Yeah.
be the person my coaches are counting on? Can
Yeah.
I be the person that my school, the university, the town, my family, my peers, my friends, and everything that they
Yeah.
depend on me to be? And when sometimes you put an athlete in that position, when they're not used to handling situations like that, when they're not used to handling those
Mm-hmm.
thoughts and handling that anxiety. Because once again, as athletes, we go through a healthy level of anxiety regardless, anyways. you
Mm-hmm.
know Anxiety, give an example of healthy anxiety. That might be, excitement, or being really hype in the moment, because when you're
Mm-hmm.
really hyped up in the moment, you tend to be more focused. When you're having fun in a high stress environment, you tend to be
Mm-hmm.
more focused, and you're looking forward to being focused in that moment, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense for everybody out there listening.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's one of the reasons. And
I
I want
want
you to
to,
chime
yeah, I
in
want
too,
to
real
touch on
quick.
that because that limiting beliefs piece is huge, right? What a lot of people don't realize, just to give this illustration, that everything in life is created twice. Can't see it because our filter is on. You can see the bottom. Everything in life is created twice. Well, Dr. Pitts, what do you mean by that? Anything that has form or that has any type of tangibility to it, or that has the ability to manifest something, it first started with a thought. Hence
Right.
why our thought life has the ability to impact our physical well-being, right?
Mhm.
So when you look at the fact that anything that manifests itself, it starts with a thought. When you think about that within the context of the power of limiting beliefs, you have the ability to sabotage your career, your performance based upon your thought life. And
Right.
how do you combat that? It's a real, it's like, interestingly enough, I was working right before we came on to pre-record. I was working with one of my life coaching clients, and we were talking this through and out. And, you know, the client said to me that they didn't understand how to combat this habit that they have of embracing and dancing with their limiting beliefs. And I
Mhm.
said, well, you practice that. I was like, well, Dr. What do you mean I practiced it? I said, you didn't come out the womb with limiting beliefs. You learned it.
Right.
You learned how to have limiting beliefs. You
Right.
learned how to have a defeatist attitude. You learned
Mhm.
how to have toxic thinking.
Yeah.
So, how do you combat the limiting beliefs? How do you combat your toxic thinking? You
Mhm.
have to replace it with supporting beliefs. So, here's the example that I like to use. Say your limiting belief is, I didn't go to college, so therefore I can't be as successful as Ronnie or as successful as Dr. Pitts. That's the
Hmm.
limiting belief. In
Right.
contrast, though, the supporting belief is, though I didn't go to college for 4 years, I've obtained an exorbitant amount of real life experience that can be applicable in various situations. We collegiately we call that life experience credits,
Right.
right? So it's recognizing that if you have toxic thinking, because there is a connection between your thinking and your physical being, i.e., your athletic performance, you have to be able to harness those toxic thoughts and those limiting beliefs and replace them with supporting thoughts and supporting beliefs that are going to be instrumental in helping you to maximize your performance and hopefully not sabotage your athletic career.
And speaking of limiting beliefs, I'm glad you mentioned that. It was going to bring me to one of my other reasons why,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes athletes might find themselves sabotaging is placing strict expectations on your performance. You know,
Expectations too high. Yep. Mm-hmm.
exactly. And one of my favorite things that I like to tell my clients and tell people in general is that when perfection is the expectation, we
Mm-hmm.
fail every single time.
Every single time.
And
Mm-hmm.
as athletes, obviously as athletes, we're kind of like conditioned to set expectations. We have team expectations, we have side of the ball expectations, or other sports, you have whatever your position expectations are. We have our own, in football, we have our own personal position expectations and things like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
like we are filled with nothing but expectations as athletes.
Mm-hmm.
However, that can be the very same reason why we sabotage is the
Right.
amount of expectations and how unrealistic at times we can be with how we
Mm-hmm.
think we're going to achieve them. For example, um when I was in high school, I used to say, I was going to be an all-state lineman and everything.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of the situation is that because I was on a not so good team, the chances of me reaching that goal, I would have had to play at such a high level that I would have had to have no choice but to stick out,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know. But if I would have had held myself to that same standard of like, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, I would have never given myself the chance to really recognize all the things I was accomplishing.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of pancakes I was getting per game, the amount of tackles and sacks I was getting each game, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those things that really matter and really add up to situations, where you
Mm-hmm.
can really sit there and say, you know what, I had a successful season.
Yeah.
When I got to college, my expectations for myself, each year as a team was, to get to the playoffs, win our conference. For me
Yeah.
personally, it was to, be all conference, try
Yeah.
to be all American. And at, for the position of center, we have an award called the Remington Award, which is awarded to the
Mm-hmm.
best center in the country for each division. And
Yeah.
so that was also my goal. And so what did that look like when I tried, what objectives I tried to set out for each goal, for those
Mm-hmm.
goals? Well, for games and everything, well, making sure I did my assignment, make sure I
Yeah.
studied my assignment, studied the game plan and things like that, knew the opponents I was going to play and everything, and have a game plan. On top of that, really having realistic goals. Obviously, don't get any penalties, don't get a dumb penalty, whether it's
Yeah.
a snapping infraction,
Yeah.
holding, false start,
Mm-hmm.
unnecessary roughness, just dumb penalties, or
Mm-hmm.
don't give up a sack.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, in 34 starts, I gave up one sack.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
and
Wow.
so, but for me, I can hang my hat on that. That's a expectation on my performance that I'm happy with. But
Yeah.
let's say I would have really been hyper focused on, well, I gave up a sack, so I really wasn't that good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I can look at it that way, and I can, allow that intrusive thought and that negative self-talk to really diminish my accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can really, say to myself, you know what, under the circumstances, under the conditions of everything that was going on at the time, I did the best I could, and these were the
Yeah.
results of that, and
Yeah.
I should be proud of that because
Yeah.
it could have been worse. Obviously things can always be better, but it could have been worse too. So, as athletes, we have to be careful about the expectations we place on ourselves because sometimes we can expect ourselves to be perfect in every situation, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I
if
want to.
if there's, oh, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I was just gonna say if there's one thing we've always seen in sports is that perfection sometimes always shouldn't be the goal.
Mhm. Well, perfection shouldn't. So here's the thing, and I've said it this way before. I'm going to reframe it for our audience. Perfection should never be the goal. Greatness and excellence should be the goal. And when you look at this whole idea of expectations and what happens when we set expectations too high, Ronnie, human behavior and relationship research has shown us that setting expectations too high has been linked to mental health conditions such
Right.
as depression, anxiety, OCD. Like there's issues that compromise your overall well-being when that expectation is set too high, and when this perfectionism comes into play. Here's something that I want people to really give consideration to that I believe is going to be liberating if they wrap their mind around it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at three things when it comes to expectations. You
Talk
have to
about it.
look at how you impose expectations on others, i.e.,
Mm-hmm.
your teammates, your coaches, your trainers, your family members and friends that are supporting you during into the season and out of season. You
Right.
also have to look at how you respond to expectations imposed upon you by others.
Right.
And then you have to look at how do you manage the expectations that you impose upon yourself. So, three ways. How do you impose expectations on other people? How do you respond to the expectations that others impose upon you? And how do you manage the expectations that you impose upon yourself? And you have to take a look at that because there's a deeper dive that's connected
Right.
with that as it relates to your mental health and how that is impacting your behavior. Is it
Mm-hmm.
rooted in insecurity? It's a strong possibility.
More times than not.
You know, are you seeking to validate your existence and your greatness and your excellence by how you perform? Is it all about the performance, or do you only feel good? Do you only feel worthy? Do you only feel lovable? Do you only feel significant and extraordinary? Do you only love yourself when you're performing?
Mm.
Because that is a much
Or
deeper
when
thing.
other people are telling you how well you're performing.
Yes. Are you an attention whore? Are you so needy? Do you have such an insecure attachment style that that attention that you get from being a high achiever, from being an overachiever, does that validate you? And Ronnie, if I can be, honest about how I really assess this clinically, I really truly believe that that's part of the reason why athletes struggle to the degree that they do when they have to hang up the cleats or the Jordans or the,
Right.
the whatever.
We're treated like celebrities.
Yeah. And it's
Like, I
like, oh
mean,
crap, now what? I'm just a
if
regular
you
old human being. My oxygen
look at,
supply is gone. And I'm like, why can't you just be enough because you're enough?
because attention is a drug.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, but seriously though, like
No, no,
that
no. I'm,
attention is
I'm
such a,
agreeing. I totally agree. But
and you
people
got to
don't
think like
realize that.
another thing too that a lot of people don't think about as well is that a lot of these kids, a lot of times we look at youth sports now. Sometimes these kids at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old,
Yeah.
their teams or organizations are being glorified and
Yep.
hyped up and things like that. Now,
Yep.
granted, don't get me wrong, it's cool to see that and things like that, and it's cool that
Mm-hmm.
those kids get those opportunities and experiences. But once
Mm-hmm.
again, you're exposing them to a level of attention and a
Mm-hmm.
level of expectations that now they have to hold themselves to moving
Yeah.
forward. And
Yeah.
once again, like I don't want to ever sit there and say that somebody can set their expectations too high.
Mm-hmm.
However, a lot of times when it comes to sports, a lot of our individual expectations are really determined by, our coaching staff, our head coach,
Mm-hmm.
our position coach, and things like that. Because at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, they're the ones who allow us to go on the field and perform.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're the ones who allow our talent to speak for ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. So if we're not careful, then yeah, you can allow yourself to really, sabotage that moment and everything like
Yeah.
that.
No, that's real. That's real.
Man,
It's the next one.
So my next one actually is, kind of what we've been talking about is also comparing yourself to others,
Oh gosh, Ronnie, that is huge.
right?
That's such
And
a big one.
it is, and unfortunately, it happens. I think, in a way, it's kind of like, we kind of have to, but once
Mhm.
again, we know too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, you
Right.
know?
Anything in
And so,
excess can mess around and hurt you.
right. And
Hmm.
so when I say, we kind of do it all the time, what do you always hear, when you ask a youth football player, what do they want to be when they grow up? Yeah, they
I want
want
to
to be
be
a
like Tom
football player.
Brady.
Right. I want to be like Tom Brady.
I
I
want
want
to
to be
be
like
like Mike.
Michael. I want to be like Michael Vick or Michael Jordan or
Yep.
LeBron or Steph
Yep.
Curry or
Yep.
Justin Jefferson or
Yep.
Jamar Chase,
Yep.
JJ Watt. I want to be like these players. So in
Mm-hmm.
other words, they want to model how this player was.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think another great example is Kobe. Kobe modeled his
Yeah.
game right after Michael Jordan, and everybody kind of said that Kobe was a Michael Jordan 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
But the beauty of it, and Kobe's kind of like I guess, what you would consider, I guess, the best case scenario for really comparing yourself to somebody else, like really
Mm-hmm.
modeling yourself after somebody else. At the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, we're all our, each, individual unique self. However, as athletes, when we compare ourselves to others, yeah, you can really find yourself, sabotaging your efforts and sabotaging your chances of really performing
Mm-hmm.
when you're so worried about what somebody else is doing. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you a great example. We see this all the time in college.
Mm-hmm.
These 5-star recruits, these 4-star recruits, these highly recruited players, these top
Mm-hmm.
100 players, top 10 players, and things like that, who are nationally known, well covered, and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And they go to college. And what's the one thing we always hear college coaches and college players say? When
Mm-hmm.
you get to college, everybody's good.
Yeah, man.
every Everybody was all state. Well,
Yeah.
at
Everybody's
the
superstar.
D1 at the D1 level, everybody was all state.
Yeah.
Everybody was Mr. Football or Mr. Basketball or Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball, whatever the case may be. Everybody was their town's best player, best athlete, was
Yeah.
4-star, 5-star, played 4 sports, 5 sports, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
At the college level, you see that all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
even coaches will tell you, like, hey, we're looking for somebody to replace you.
Right. And you talk about that
So
all the time. Like
right.
you're literally paying every single solitary game you're playing to preserve your spot because folk is
Exactly.
always ready to take it.
Isn't on it, you are going out there auditioning for your role every single week.
Yeah.
And sometimes that pressure, sometimes those thoughts of once again having to be perfect, having to make the
Mm-hmm.
right choice every single time. Let's take, for example, the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a position right there where, us as fans too, we heavily compare our quarterbacks,
Mm-hmm.
and what is,
Mm-hmm.
for quarterbacks, what does it boil down to? How many touchdowns you throw compared to interceptions?
Mm-hmm.
How many wins you have? How many
Yeah.
wins you have in the playoffs? How many game-winning touchdown drives do you have?
Mm-hmm.
How many, hell, what else? Like, how many, obviously, how many Super Bowls do you have?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, when we compare, as fans, when we compare other players, it makes for great debate. It makes for great,
Yeah.
arguments and, things like that. But
Yeah.
when we see our athletes doing it, when we see our
Right.
athletes succumbing to that pressure of feeling they have to be like somebody else,
Right.
when somebody in a sport sets a certain standard,
Yeah.
for example, like Tom Brady playing until he's 45.
Yeah.
Now we kind of have this notion that any quarterback who's really good, we expect them now that they have to play to 45. Otherwise, well, I mean, you really either A, you didn't take care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
B, you really, didn't do that well, or
Mm-hmm.
C, you really, just didn't care enough to play that long. But
Only
I think
QBs that can do that, Ronnie, are pocket quarterbacks.
right. But once again, so you have a whole style of quarterbacks who now are ostracized, or any position for that matter. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't play 10, 15 years, was your career really good?
Right. Right.
We know to be true that the average NFL career is only 2.5 to 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hell, if you play 5, 6 years, I mean, if you want to compare yourself to others, then yeah, you've had a hell of a career if you
Yeah.
see it that way. So we have to be very careful about what our limits to comparing is.
Mm-hmm.
Comparing in some ways, yeah. If, for example, I feel like I got to sneeze. Oh Lord.
Bless you.
If I, so for example, like when I was a center, what I used to compare myself to is, how other centers, what were their stats? Did they, how many
Mm-hmm.
pancakes they had? Did they give
Mm-hmm.
up sacks? How well they handle, double teams and things like just like little inside things that I would compare myself to other centers to.
Mm-hmm.
And also too, like, if another center is getting all conference and I'm looking at their game and stuff like that, and I can take tidbits and things like that to add to my
Mm-hmm.
game, then yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna compare how I stack up to that to see if I can take something from their game and things like that. That's
Mm-hmm.
comparing in a way that's gonna, I'm trying to just, just better myself.
Yeah.
When we think about another way of looking at comparing is, what can I learn from this person? You know,
Right. Right.
what can I learn from this person to add to my game?
Right.
Not what can I learn from this person, and if I don't do this, then my game is trash.
Right. Isn't
That's
that
that's
Ronnie?
the. Oh, go ahead. I'm
Real,
sorry.
real quick question. No, you're fine. The the commercial with Morgan Freeman and Tom Brady where he's reading that letter. And in essence
Uh,
what he's saying is you don't want to be the next Tom Brady, you want to be the first whoever you are,
right. Yeah.
right? You don't want to be, the next LeBron or the next Kobe or the next Steph or the next, Kevin Durant. You want to be the first you.
Right. And
You
I
want to be the
think,
first you.
Damian Lillard made a great point about this on JJ Redick's podcast. And he kind of talked about, because, everybody kind of like chastises him for not leaving Portland and going to, chase a ring. And he was like, well, if everybody gets a ring, what's the point of getting a ring? You
Ooh,
know,
that's good.
right. And I mean, yeah, obviously, and every sport that we play,
Yeah,
obviously the goal is to win the championship, be a winner,
yeah,
and things like that. But if we only solely compare our athletes to just how many championships they
yeah.
won,
That's real.
then we are dismissing so many other great and elite careers.
Yeah.
There are a
And
lot
there's
of
so much
great players.
more. The championship is big, but one of the things, and I'm just bringing it up because one of the, with all of the chatter going on about Zeke leaving the Cowboys, one of the things that I really appreciated, and it's weird because I'm like, I've been watching sports literally my whole life, and I've never bear witness to narratives like this. It's like they're talking like he's died or something. It's just weird the way the conversations are coming forth. But one of the things that um I want to say it was, I don't know if it was Spagnuolo. One of the things that one of the coaches said is that they talked about, you know, that there was some immaturity when he
Mhm.
first came into the league, and it, for all intents and purposes, that he didn't use this word. I'm reframing. He It could have sabotaged. It could have sabotaged the career that he had at Dallas. But they said that he grew up. He grew up, and that class of 2016, he and Dak, they grew up and became men together, coming
Mhm.
out of college into the draft and coming to America's team. And I think that it's so important to note that because it's part of what combats self-sabotage is transformation, right?
Right.
It's transformation in how you think, it's transformation in your behavior, it's transformation in your attitude. And I think that that's the piece that you alluded to, right? And that the player that you referenced alluded to. Yes, everybody wants to win a championship, but if all you're getting out of the sport is winning or not winning a championship, then you've missed the robustness of the journey. You've
Right.
missed all of you've missed the relationship connections that you've made. You've missed the lessons that you should have learned and could have learned. You missed the value that comes with team camaraderie and
Just the
just
journey.
the brotherhood and the sisterhood that comes from team sports. If all you're focused on is, well, they didn't win any championships during that person's career, you missed it. No, they didn't
And
get a ring, but look at all of the other invaluable stuff that they got.
right. I think you can say the same for individual sports too,
Yeah.
because in individual sports, it's just you and the other person. It's literally, did you win because of you or did you lose because of you? you
Right,
know?
right.
And so in situations like that, if all you compare yourself is to, did I, how many wins did I get? Did I
Mm-hmm.
lose? Because
Mm-hmm.
we don't sit there and knock Muhammad Ali for having, I think, 5 losses and I think 1 draw. We still
Right.
consider him one of the greatest of all time.
That's
You
right.
know, yes,
That's right.
Floyd Mayweather is perfect. He's a 50, perfect 50-0.
Mm-hmm.
Kudos to him. But there, I think, oh, I can't remember his name right now, but I think he's a Mexican boxer. I think
Mm-hmm.
he was like 98-2 or something. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, hell, he fought 100 times. Floyd only fought
Wow.
50. And this dude,
Yeah.
so
It's one of
if
the
we
older
all,
Mexican boxers.
yeah. He older dude. I can't think of his name right now. Um, but
You're not talking
you know,
about Camacho, are you?
that
Hector Macho
could
Camacho?
could be. Could be. It's one of
I don't
them.
know if
I
he
don't know.
boxed that much, but he was a beast. He was a
Yeah,
beast back in the day.
you know,
And don't he train Pacquiao? Like, doesn't Pacquiao train through through
nah,
Camacho's gym?
Pacquiao was trained by Eddie Roach, the white dude.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought
yeah,
there was a
yeah, yeah.
connection there. Okay, but anyway, go ahead.
But I mean, even in those situations, so
Mhm,
just we say all that to say, you really have to, as when it comes to expectations and also, comparing
mhm,
yourself to others and things like that, you
mhm.
know, be careful comparing yourself to others, not only in
Yeah,
sports but in the real world, because what
yeah.
do we always say? Comparison is the thief of joy. And
We'll say
comparison
true.
comparison robs you of the ability to enjoy your own personal experiences and your
Mm-hmm.
own personal learning journeys.
Yeah.
So be careful of that.
Yeah.
And another reason that I wanted to, get your opinion on also,
Mm-hmm.
why we see sometimes athletes sabotage is, one way to say it is misinterpreting pre-race jitters, or in other words,
Mm-hmm.
misinterpreting the butterflies before a game, those nerves
Mm-hmm.
before a game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've used to hear people say, like, if you didn't have butterflies before you went out there, you should, don't go out there, don't
Mm-hmm.
play, quit, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or I've also heard people say, coach used to walk around and say, if I look in your eyes, I can tell if you want to go out there. If you don't want to go out there, if you hesitate and everything, take your shoulder pads off right now and everything and stuff like that. If you're too nervous,
Mm-hmm.
whatever scare tactics that coaches, use to try and get us motivated and
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I think it's safe to say that regardless of the sport, whether you're a triathlete, whether you're a football player, baseball player,
Mm-hmm.
field hockey, soccer, I think it's safe to say that more times than not, our athletes before they walk out on that field have some type of, pre-race jitters, worries,
Mm-hmm.
concerns, doubt.
How can you
I give you an
not?
example. I used to always have jitters about the first hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what it was. It's something about the first hit. You just like,
Once you get it
boom.
out, boom.
So now, don't judge me, okay? This is gonna sound absolutely barbaric, all right? So what I used to do to alleviate that, now what we would call this clinically is a maladaptive coping skill
Oh gosh.
to handle anxiety. So how I used to handle my anxiety around the first hit of a game is that me and one of my really good friends, Bruce Baskerville, if he's listening or will listen to this episode, he knows exactly what I'm about to talk about. Before every game when we were in high school, our junior and senior year, when we would run out from the end zone and everything, we go on the sideline. And then, when you dap somebody up, you pat them on the back and everything. Well, instead of doing that, we dap each other up and we headbutt each other really hard 3 times.
Ronnie,
And look, once you got to think,
Ronnie,
this was like 09,
without
2010.
helmets.
No, with helmets, with helmets, with helmets. I
Okay.
mean, that don't
I was
that don't
like,
make
oh
it
dear
no.
God.
Trust me, it don't make it no better.
Because
I
I was
promise.
about to say, you should have put that disclaimer out there. Do not try to sell. Giving
Please,
people
once
concussions,
again,
brain bleeds.
clinically, we call this a maladaptive coping skill.
I love
So
that.
please do not maladapt and model that coping skill. I highly do not
No, don't
recommend
do
it
that.
because,
Oh my gosh.
but I say all that to say, that's how I would handle my anxiety before a game. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we've seen people, they might throw up before a game. They might have to listen to. I've seen players where they got to listen to motivational songs and
You know,
motivational
before,
speakers.
especially in the NFL, you always see them coming in with their earbuds in or walking around the
Right,
field. No, they always got something playing, whatever it
right.
is.
I had a teammate who would listen to '90s R&B before games.
Oh God.
Like
Okay.
shout out Ronald.
Whatever your
He would
coping skill
always
is.
he would all hey look hey Ronald was a beast too. Ronald go out there and listen to SWV and go out there and got them play his knees weak out there, man. I'm trying to tell you. Like he hit them one good time, got them out there weak. But
Wow.
so I've seen a multitude of athletes handle
Hmm.
pregame jitters in a multitude of ways.
Hmm.
But I think it's also important too to not allow those jitters to sabotage your performance.
Yeah.
Because if you allow those jitters to come with you during the game,
Hmm.
then once again, when you're playing slow, when you're thinking and not
Hmm.
reacting, when you're
Hmm.
half stepping, when you're hesitating, when you're
Hmm.
thinking for a 2 second too long, you throw an
Hmm.
interception, you have a
Yeah.
turnover, you
Yeah.
overthrow first base, you
Yeah.
might drop a catch in the outfield,
Yeah.
things like that. When you
Yeah.
allow those pregame jitters to really interfere with your performance. So be mindful of that. And
Hmm.
find a routine. If it's
Yeah.
listening to a certain level of music, if it's,
Yeah.
I've seen players, lay down on their, lay down by their locker and, just kind of like close their eyes and try and meditate,
Yeah.
visualize the game and things like that. You always hear coaches say, visualize the game, visualize yourself
Yeah.
out there,
Yeah.
doing that. For some people that works. My ADHD didn't allow that. I try to start visualizing about the game. I'm gonna start visualizing about what I'm gonna eat after the
I
game.
can't with you, man. I can't. It's so simple. So simple. Say the ribs sure do look good.
Hey, look, the grill used to be right by our locker. I'd be like, yeah, that don't smell good, man.
Oh
But
God.
so yeah, so as we get ready to wrap up and everything, so Dr. Pitts, what are some things that you think our athletes can do to recognize that they might be exhibiting or maybe have
Hmm.
exhibited some sabotage behaviors? What are
Hmm.
some things that they can might do to recognize that and maybe circumvent that?
Hmm. You know, I think, and I'm going to tie it into a couple of key things. I think that one of the things that they have to do, and this might sound odd, but it's totally applicable, is you have to learn how to adjust to things that are beyond your control.
Mm,
You have to, because if you don't, okay, we've had some examples, particularly um, at the professional level, right, where people were change adverse, which is weird when you considering how much the game is constantly changing and
right.
you're not. What do we say all the time? We say it every week on the show. You never leave the game in the hand of the refs. Never do that. You have no control over that. How many times this past NFL season, Ronnie, did we see players get ejected from games? Too many.
Yeah.
Too many, because they weren't able to make the adjustment to those things that were going on beyond their control, and they zap smooth out. But how many times, and here's the sabotage piece, how many times, Ronnie, can you get ejected from games or be that player that is known for causing dissension in the locker room? What who comes to mind is Terrell Owens, right? And I mean, real talk, right? Like,
Right.
you people aren't going to touch you. They are
Mhm.
not going to touch you. He could have played for so much longer than he actually had. We know why Colin Kaepernick did what he did, but had it been handled a little differently, he could have still been playing, right? So I know that's a hot topic for folks, but at the end of the day, making the necessary adjustments to things that are beyond your control can be very, very instrumental in helping you to stop self sabotage. Go ahead.
Is it fair to call him sabotaging, or can we
I didn't.
really
No, no,
call
no, no,
like
no, 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 no. I'm not saying that he did. I use that as an example that there are things, because the reality of it is that I'm not I'm not knocking what he did. I'm not.
mm,
That was his choice. That's what he did. But what I am saying is that there are circumstances where athletes have absolutely positively beyond the shadow of a doubt. That's why I led in with Terrell Owens,
Hmm.
where their behavior ended up sabotaging their career because of how they were responding to circumstances beyond their control. And so look at Antonio Brown. He should, I mean, for all intents and purposes, he
Nah,
was
he that.
he had some gas, he still had some rubber on his wheels.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But is anybody gonna touch him? No.
Right. I think he's a really great example of somebody who, maybe in other situations where, I always say like be careful of wanting attention,
Yeah,
you
well,
know,
that's what I said. Are you an attention or?
because sometimes, I always say be careful what you wish for because you definitely will get it. And,
Mm-hmm.
and when it comes to attention, we have to be really careful because,
Yeah.
you know, Coach Prime said it really well in his last interview on the
Mm-hmm.
Pivot podcast when he talked about, he doesn't give other people his remote to him and to
Mm-hmm.
his
Mm-hmm.
emotions. So if when you're praising me and congratulating me and all these things,
Mm-hmm.
if I allow that to be my measure of what I consider,
Mm-hmm.
my emotions and how I feel about myself,
Mm-hmm.
then when you all are criticizing me and dogging me and talking bad about
Mm-hmm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm gonna feel bad about myself and talk bad about myself too because
Mm-hmm.
I've given you all my remote and I allow you to
Mm-hmm.
control the volume of
Mm-hmm.
my emotions. So, in a situation like Antonio Brown, where I mean, yeah, a 6 round talent, 6 round player to, becoming arguably if had he had maybe one or two more seasons of what he
Mm-hmm.
had, surefire Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Some might think what he's done, in his career is Hall of Fame worthy,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, to see what he's done, yes, absolutely, it would be
Mm-hmm.
easy to say that his behaviors were definitely saboteur.
Mm-hmm.
But also too, I think also a lot of times too, just like with John Morant, I think
Mm-hmm.
with sabotaging, it's another way of crying out for help. You
Oh,
know,
absolutely. And thank you for saying that because that was the last piece that I wanted to add is that you have to you have learning how to not self-sabotage requires heightened level of self-awareness.
right?
So three things three things that people can find themselves doing. And Ronnie, you can tell me I'm wrong, but I believe if they do it outside of play in their personal life, I believe it's going to find its way into the locker room and onto the field, the court, the baseball diamond, or whatever the sport is. If people are prone to default to self pity, blame, and resentment, it is going to sabotage their career before it is all said and done.
Absolutely.
It's going to sabotage. You have to be willing to not wallow, to not blame, to not hold resentment, because that is like a cancer that gets in you. And we're seeing more and more and more owners, particularly at the professional level, they're not putting up with this crap. You are
Mm-mm.
not going to be permitted to be a cancer in the locker room. But what happens at the collegiate level? What happens at the high school level? You, I have seen, whoo, I've seen it happen at the high school level, Ronnie, where linemen didn't protect the quarterback.
Oh, I've
Like,
seen that
I ain't
before.
even gonna lie. I wondered, remember when Michael Vick was playing for the Eagles and he was running for his life all the time? And Philly was in an uproar when they brought Michael Vick in because of all the issues with the dog and stuff. And then there were some issues with one of the players was made racial epithets and stuff like that. There was a minute where I questioned, are they letting him get hit? Have those not because of
Uh,
anything, not because of how he was showing up in the locker room, but because of the resentment that some may have had. You don't
nah,
think so? I
nah,
don't know.
not. I don't think not. If anything would have been how he showed up in the locker room.
But he do you really think
I
how do
the
you
only because even with Colin Kaepernick, there wasn't a situation because he played that entire season when he first kneeled,
mm,
and I mean, they weren't good to be. I think that was the year Jim Harbaugh left.
Mm-hmm.
to go to Michigan. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's when they had I can't remember the coach that was at Oregon, but they had him at San Francisco.
The one that was at Philly, and then he went to San
Right,
Francisco.
yeah. So in a
Skip
situation
Kelly.
like I think in a
Skip
situation like Colin,
Kelly.
you know, it was more so that the team was just bad and he didn't play, actually he didn't play bad that season. You know,
Mm-hmm.
despite the, backlash and the criticism he was getting
Mm-hmm.
off the field, on the field he didn't really, it didn't, uh, it didn't look like he allowed it to bother him that much. So in a situation like Michael Vick, I would find it hard to believe that the players themselves would
Mm-hmm.
allow their personal judgments about, what he did to get in the way of that. Now, maybe, 20, 30 years ago,
It would have been an issue.
players did that and stuff like that.
I was
But I
just
think
curious.
now,
Mm-hmm.
I will say this though. Now, somebody like Le'Veon Bell from the Steelers,
Mm-hmm.
um, when basically the offensive line, they all said like, "Hey, he's not welcome back here. Like, if he come back here, hey, I can't
It
sit
is
there and
what it
tell you I'm
is.
gonna block
Mm-hmm.
with. I'm not. He said they were like, I can't tell you I'm gonna block with max effort for him. I can't
Wow.
tell you that. So
Wow.
there are situations, but that's how they show up in the locker room. I
Okay.
I
Okay.
would find it, really hard to see a situation where professional athletes might
Mm-hmm.
allow a outside situation to,
Mm-hmm.
interfere with what's going on. Now I know we gotta go and whatnot, but to
Mm-hmm.
your point though, real quick, I did, I can't confirm this at all because I have no proof of it, but the
Mm-hmm.
UNC men's basketball team, real quick. You're talking about
Mm-hmm.
somebody sabotaging their chances.
Wow.
They were preseason #1 in the country to start the season. They had just
Wow.
lost in the national championship last year. They had everybody coming back. They were preseason #1 to start the season. Missed the NCAA tournament, refused to go to the NIT tournament. But guess what?
Wow.
Two of their star players allegedly were battling over
Nonsense. Some strange.
some strange for a little piece of change they was arguing over, and
Wow.
apparently that turmoil, that disconnect that them two had for each other
Mm-hmm.
spilled over amongst the team.
Ooh, Ronnie, you just reminded me of something.
Uh-oh.
Andre's junior year in high school.
Uh-oh. High
He,
school gossip. Ooh.
yep, high school has some smoke. Andre's junior year in high school, two players on his high school basketball team. I had never seen anything like it. Two players on his high school basketball team would fight each other, and I literally had never seen a technical called on two players on the same team for fighting each other.
Hey,
And
I always
yeah,
tell people, man, wars have been waged over
stuff.
over that good. So,
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's why they were fighting, but they
that
used to
yeah,
fight each other all the time.
I
All
can't
the time.
I
We were
can't
like,
confirm
really
what
though? That's what we're doing.
I can't confirm or deny that is what is actually what's going on amongst amongst those two people.
Mm-hmm.
But that was what was swirling around, at
Mm-hmm.
midpoint of the season. It
Right.
would explain how a team that had the same players from last
All
year,
that talent
same
and should have
talent,
gone into the championship and won
and
can't
then
get it together.
and there was really telling about it though is that they refused to accept the invite to go to the NIT tournament, which is basically like
Crazy.
the NCAA tournament, with just the rest of the teams.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been seasons where they've gone to the NIT and won that, and then the next season go win the championship. So for them to refuse to go to that speaks volumes of like how quickly they wanted this season to end. Like they were like, you know what,
Wow.
we've had it, we're done with
With
this.
but isn't that coaching too? And I know that's another show, but isn't that coaching too?
Sometimes, but I mean, and you can look at it one or two ways. You can look at it like, the coach watched the team sabotage themselves,
Mm-hmm.
or the coach recognized that the team was sabotaging themselves and was like, you know what, it's better that we end this now. Those players leave, and we just kind of like, you know what, we'll just
But
have
Ronnie,
to
don't
start
they
over.
say attitude reflects leadership?
Right. I mean, hey, we've talked about it before. As much as there's pressure that the players go through, these
Mm-hmm.
coaches at these Power Five schools go through the same amount of pressure too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Hubie Davis is having to walk in the footsteps of Roy Williams and Coach Dean and everything. So
Yeah.
He's got some big shoes to, to walk in
Mm,
and fill. And I mean, at UNC, it's championship or bust. So
yeah,
when
yeah.
each year you're expected to win a championship because you're recruiting the best of the best, have the best of the best facilities,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, at that level for that position of a head coach, comparing yourself to them, you kind of have no choice but to be compared to the people who came before you and what they did, because that's how
What's
you
the
keep
coach
your
at
job.
Jackson State gonna do?
Well, and I mean, in all honesty, you know, and it's crazy. Like everybody keeps on asking, like Coach Prime, like what's going to happen with Jackson State and HBCUs now. Once again, I am going to reiterate this: the top 5 most attended HBCU games last year did not have Jackson State in any of them.
Wow. Wow.
As
Okay.
so, to answer your question, I think Jackson State will, they'll be okay. They might
Mm-hmm.
not win the SWAC next year,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll be okay.
Yeah.
I think FAMU probably, is gonna
Mm-hmm.
look for some
Bragg
revenge. They might.
Stadium's full every game. It don't
I
make a
tell you this
difference
much.
whether the Rattlers is winning or losing. That stadium is full every single solitary home game.
I tell you this much though. Um, when you talk about things coming full circle, the one thing I do know about schools, when you have your run and everything, you beating up
Mm-hmm.
on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Best believe those schools you was beating up on.
Coming for you.
Oh, they can't. Alabama State. Oh, best
Yeah,
believe
man.
he might not care if Prime there or not, but best believe he can't
Coming.
wait
It's
to
a
see Jackson
dogfight.
State.
He
Oh
wants to he wants
yeah.
to humiliate them.
Oh yeah. I'm telling you right now. See, that's why I always say sports are so compared to life, because
Yeah.
there is nothing like just watching the score get ran up,
Right.
knowing you just did this to them. Like I always say,
Right.
man, I
Right.
done ran the score up on people. I done had the score ran up on me.
Yeah, man.
So
Yeah.
hey, life come at you full circle sometimes. But
Okay.
did you have any closing points or anything you wanted to
Nah,
add?
baby. You got
I
it.
know
Take us
I know
home.
you tired. I know you tired.
I'm powerful
You
tired. I gotta put progress notes in and
yeah, you out
I'm
here.
not done. I got paperwork to do.
Yeah, you out here listening to all these people problems all day.
Oh, dang. I got
Don't
progress
become
notes
the
to put in, and then I'm gonna get something to eat, and I'm gonna go to
I
sleep.
know I know that's right. Well, folks, that's it for episode 116 of House Talk Pregame. Make
Yeah.
sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel,
Yes.
because once again, it helps us out, does phenomenal things for us, and gives us a chance to do phenomenal things for you all. Make sure
That's
you
right.
find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. Like and subscribe to
Yeah.
those channels as well. And until next week, I won't be here next week.
He's
But don't
abandoning us. He's activating my abandonment issues.
I gotta go be a businessman in the morning next week.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta handle them things before the Iris calls me.
Mm-hmm. But we got a
I don't
blast for the from the past forum for next week, though. We're
right,
not gonna
yeah.
tell them about it,
So
though. We're not gonna tell them.
right, yeah. So stay tuned for next week, because it's gonna be a wonderful episode in
Yeah.
my absence. Dr. Pitts is
Yeah.
gonna hold it down with our phenomenal guest next
Yes.
week. So make
Yes.
sure y'all tune in next week, regular time,
Yeah.
11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday morning. So until then, hope y'all have a great rest of the night, great weekend, stay safe, and we'll holler at you then.
Bye, everybody.